Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Luca and I like to talk about books. It's been a while. What can I say? That's a cat. If you notice the camera moving, she's rubbing up against you with her little cheek. Yes, I've been absent. I've been busy. I have 3 major life updates. I got a second cat. That's Lysander. Up there in the corner. He's judging you. Better be careful what you do. I dyed my hair green, and now it's back to normal. That happened, and I moved into my own apartment. Well, another apartment, a different apartment, a new apartment. And I'm here right now, believe it or not. Isn't that crazy? So just in case you weren't aware, I have 2 cats. This is Winona. She really wants to say hi and put her pheromones on all of my books. And then that's Lysander, yes. He is a little baby. He's like 9 months old. Winona is almost 2. She's not quite 2 though, so she's still a little kitten. Definitely is trying to convince me that she's a kitten now that Lysander's in the house, because she said, you brought in another cat, hello, no. I am baby. Anyway, if you hear some riotous movement, it's likely Winona. I thought today I would come back. Am I breaking my hiatus because Heartstopper Season 3 is coming out in 6 months and I'm just really excited? Maybe. I will be reading all of Isaac's books again because Isaac is he's not my soulmate, but like we're like soul friends. You know what I mean? We would be besties. I thought I would do a book haul to get myself back into the vibe of making book videos. I hate talking. Here I am. But I'm putting off doing some homework because I have a 5-page paper due today that I actually have not even read the material for. And it's 12:17. So less than 12 hours to do that. And I'm gonna make a video instead. How do we feel? Great, very, very good. You got something to say? Okay, let's start in an easy place. So I am subscribed. Lysander! I just ignore him, it's fine. I am subscribed to the New York Review of Books book club. Classics book club. So they send you pay a fee at the beginning of the year, I guess, and they send you 12 books, 1 every month, which is great. Because you forget about it and then you're like, oh, I have a new book in the mail, and it's pretty cool. So far, have not read any of the books that I have been sent. And not because I don't want to, but because I don't want to. My April book, I'm gonna just do the last 2 months. It's been a while and I bought a lot of books so far this year. I could haul probably 100 or more books, but I don't want to, that's too many. So I'm just going to do the books I've bought in the last April and first half of May. So the April book club book for the book club, you know what I'm trying to say, is A Strange and Sublime Address by Amit Chaudhuri. They send a little snippet with the books when they send them that says like why they chose this book for the book club and that kind of thing, and I don't pay attention to them at all. In fact, I recycle them without even reading them. So I don't know what this book is about. I can read the back to you. Sometimes that's not interesting, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And then you can just skip, I don't know. 10-year-old Sandeep lives in a high-rise in Bombay, where his father has an important job that keeps him busy all the time. Come summer, Sandeep and his mother travel to Calcutta to spend time with his aunt, his self-absorbed, improvident uncle, and Abhi, his favorite cousin. His relative's house is shadowy and rambling, the vast city around it ramshackle and alluring. They fascinate curious, observant Sandeep. Days pass, the heat grows, the rains come, the visit ends. In the winter, Sandeep and his family return to Calcutta and encounter an unexpected turn of events. But Sandeep has arrived at a new sense of things, an understanding of how the marvelous adheres in the mundane, which will be his, we feel, for good. Interesting, right? What is the event that is unexpected and turns? This is why they probably put that on the blurb, right? There's this book. Again, haven't read it, haven't read any of the ones that I've gotten for the book club. I really should, but it feels like I'm not buying them anymore, and so I don't feel like I have to pressure myself to read them because like I want to read all the books that I buy in a month, but these don't feel like I'm buying them because I already paid. In January. How do we like this setup? Do you like my bookshelves? This is only 2 of like 5. The next book that arrived for May, which arrived right before my big trip, Butterfly of Dinard by Eugenio Montale. I also started reading the first page or 2, but do I remember any of it? No. All right, and then this one, again, do I know anything about it? No. So let's read the back together, shall we? Enjoy looking at my cat, if you can see him. The great poet Eugenio Montale was also a remarkable writer of prose whose stories appeared regularly in the Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera. I don't speak Italian. Thank you. Butterfly of Dinard is a collection of 50 of those stories. Oh, it's stories. Okay. Pieces about silly and trivial things, which are at the same time important, whose sprightliness, subtle irony, and conversational ease defy the limits of traditional fiction. Taken together, They form a sort of autobiographical novel evoking people, objects, and animals dear to the poet, while simultaneously shedding light on the social, cultural, and political events of the day. I didn't realize it was stories. That's fine. And autobiographical. I've had some trouble with autobiographical novels recently. Autofiction have been pissing me off a little bit. So, we will see how this one goes. Given that it's short stories, which is just, not that I don't like short stories, it's just a genre that I don't read often. Short stories and autofiction. So we'll see. That might be a no on my end. Those were good places to start. Let's do some poetry. This quarter, I'm in a women's literature course, and my teacher spent the first 2 days just telling us about women authors she admired, which is like, it was awesome. I wrote down so many names. And I went out and I bought a couple of poetry books because I feel like I want to get into poetry a little bit more. I recognized the authors' names, the poet names. So I thought, I'd get these books. I just got selected poems. How do you choose poetry by an author that has like so much work out, right? That's a cat toy. One of the poets that I bought was Sharon Olds. I bought her collection Strikes Sparks, which was selected poems from 1980 to 2002. It has a really cool cover. I don't know if you can see that. It's just a collection of poems. What can I say? My teacher mentioned so many people, and this is just one of the names that I like picked out and bought a book of poems. So the next author, again, same sort of thing, Anne Sexton. And I'm reading a book right now that mentioned Anne Sexton, so I'm kind of like, ooh, I have a book of her poetry. This is just selected poems of Anne Sexton. So I just got I got 2 books of poetry based on names that my women literature professor shouted out. And then I also bought The Orange by Wendy Cope. I guess I realized was collected poems, but didn't really realize collected poems. Like, of course, selected poems, I just mean like selected from other editions. You know what I mean. I hope. I don't, because I don't know if I know what I mean. Anyway, The Orange, you may have heard the poem. It's the one that ends, I love you, I'm glad I exist. So it's a very sweet little poem. I'd say most of these poems are very like happy and like, this is the life. This is, I'm glad to be alive. I love you. Very much like all in a similar vein of The Orange, I guess. I just wanted this book, and so I bought it, and it's really cute. And that is part of the reason I bought it. And the cover is all orange, haha. Wendy Cope. She's Britain's most beloved comedic poet, or something like that. I don't know. But I did enjoy her poems quite a bit, and I bought some more, but I'll be talking about those later. I bought a book for book club that I started, and this book club was supposed to be our May book. Like, we buy it in April and read it, and then talk about it in May. But no, none of us finished it. So we're doing it in like the beginning of June. And that is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. I've heard really good things about this from my sister, mainly. And the friends that have read more in the book than I have so far are also really enjoying this. It's about a boy and his dad after their mother dies, but there's like a family secret. It apparently is like, well, Lysander described it all, didn't he? Over generation, not like multi-generational, but like over time, and it's like kind of horror, but it's like lit horror set in Argentina. We're reading it. It's so far good. I'm not good at book hauls. What am I doing? I don't know. But I bought this for book club, so I'm reading it. Been more than a month, and I'm only like 75 pages in. I read the first part. That's like 120 pages. Anyway, so you know how John Green exists? He's been promoting his new movie, Turtles All the Way Down, and I was like, wow, well, I have to watch the movie, but before I watch the movie, I have to read the book, so I bought the book. I used to have a signed copy hardback that I pre-ordered. In fact, I pre-ordered 2 by accident, or maybe I pre-ordered 1 and I bought 1. Anyway, so I used to have 2 signed copies of Turtles All the Way Down hardcover, and then I got rid of both of them. But I went through a phase in my late high school career, like grade 11, grade 12, where I decided I was no longer a young adult and I didn't need to have any of my young adult anything, and that's when I got rid of all my Alice Oseman, and I got rid of all my John Green, which was a mistake, because I really end up quite liking it. Anyway, so I read Turtles All the Way Down to anticipate the release of the movie, which is also very good, although it's different than the book. I guess I have like some thoughts about it, and I'd have to sort of like, that's not the point. The point is I bought Turtles All the Way Down, and I read it immediately, as in like that day. It follows Isa Holmes. She has really bad, awful OCD that sort of manifests in like an obsession with her microbiome and C. diff. She's gonna get infected. But it's also about her childhood friend's dad goes missing, and her best friend is like dealing with having a friend who has really bad OCD. And obviously you can tell that it's written from a place of real understanding of anxiety. I don't know why I didn't relate to it as much when I was a kid. When I was like 15. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I don't remember. Reading it now, I was like, why didn't I like this more? Loved it. I gobbled it up. I could not put it down. Basically, it impacted me so much. And there's like a lot of, plot that goes on too. But I think most of what got me was just like Aza's experience with anxiety and just, So I bought that. This is going great. I also bought Until August by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which I think is like posthumously published, and I don't know if he intended it to be published or not. I don't know its stage of completion. It's like a complete story, but I think the preface says like, oh, this isn't something that he wanted published, and I don't know. So who knows what he would have thought, right, of this being published. But it follows a woman who every summer goes to an island to grieve, like on her mother's, either it's her birthday or the day she died, and just like goes and visits her mother's graves. But it turns kind of past just remembering her mother into every summer she has an affair for a day. Just kind of follows that every year projection course of events. She's a married woman. I liked it. There were things I thought were quite interesting. Is that true? I don't remember. Can I be so real? I bought this. I read it that evening. I quoted, you can see I have some quotes, not very many, like 5, but it's super short. It's a total 110 pages, and it starts on page 3. So it's like 107 pages, and also very small. It's a small book, so there's like not a lot of words per page. So it's very short, and it went really quickly, and I do not remember it. But I remember liking it, and I generally like his work. I don't have anything else to say. I don't have thoughts fully formed in my brain. No, thank you. Anyway, I would recommend it. It was good, but I just saw it as a new release and I bought it. Let's talk about another impulse buy. My Heavenly Favorite by Lucas Reineveld. So I read his work, The Discomfort of Evening, when it first came out. I think it won the 2020 International Booker Prize. It may have just shortlisted. So I guess I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to go buy a physical copy. But then I saw this in the bookstore and I was like, ooh, I really liked his first book. And then it said it was kind of like Lolita-esque. So I picked it up and I read it, and I can tell you I adored the writing style. Very stream of consciousness, not a whole lot of paragraph breaks, not a whole lot of punctuation, just because it is very stream of consciousness, which is the sort of writing that I really enjoy. I don't think I could ever do it because maybe I just think in full sentences. I don't know, probably not. But I think that it's just so difficult to recreate, but I really admire when other people do it. And so anyway, I bought this on a whim. I started it right away, basically, and it is the sort of follow-up to Discomfort of Evening. So The Discomfort of Evening is about this young girl who, they describe it as like, they being like blurbs. This young girl who wants to be a boy. Anyway, she grows up in this small town in the Netherlands? God, I do not know where it is, but it's in some sort of Netherlands adjacent, if it's not the Netherlands. And she is basically just really depressed, but she gets into this relationship with an older man. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. It must not be, because that's what this book is about. This book is about her relationship with the vet tech. He's not a vet tech, but like the vet, the bovine vet. And so it's told from his perspective. Oh, I'll just wait. Anyway. Oh no! So it's told from his perspective about his relationship with her, and it's written like after he's in jail for being found out, and like many years later, talking about her now that she's grown up and he's watched her and she's become like a public figure. It was interesting. It was good. I really like the writing style. It's like one of those things where you like can't you can't empathize with the main character because he's a bad guy. And so he's doing all these things and I'm like, brother, why? That's gross. But he also, it's not like a villain redemption arc, but it has a little bit of those villain redemption arc vibes because he like justifies why he did what he did. It's just interesting to me because he clearly loves her. I'm just telling you that I bought the book. So I bought the book, okay? And I liked it. It took me a while to finish because, you know, those books that have no paragraphs and you have to like actually sit down and read them. But it was good. I enjoyed it. And then Winona, speaking of the Booker Prize, Winona's lying on my book. So I bought Kairos by Jenny Erpenbeck, which is a shortlist for the 2024 Booker Prize. I'm slowly making my way through the international, by the way, this is all international Booker Prize. I'm making my way through the International Booker Prize long list this year. I only have like 4 books left. Long story short, I started reading Kairos. It was the first one from the list that I read, and I loved it. I adored it. So I went out and bought a physical copy. I was about halfway through, and I was like, there's no way I'm not gonna wanna keep this. So I bought this. I really liked it. It's about a woman looking back on her relationship with a professor, an older man, when she's young, and like the beginning of the relationship to the end of the relationship, backgrounded by the fall of the Berlin Wall. So set in East Germany in the late 80s. I just really enjoyed it. I really liked the writing style. I really enjoyed the story. It made it to the short list from the long list, and I can understand why. So yeah, I just enjoyed it big time. And so I went out and bought a copy. I annotated a lot. That's that. I bought it. Not an impulse buy, this one. But many of the books I buy are impulse buys, but not that one. I got it from the library first. And then I bought Anna Karenina, another copy. So I have this copy that's the Vintage Classics International, or the Vintage Classics Russian collection, which, you know, like they fancy and they're nice, but you can't find them in the States, and that's where I live. And so I'm not able to like grow that Russian collection. And also the translation is just Richard Pevear and Larissa Volkonsky are highly regarded, I guess, when it comes to Russian literature as translators. And I like their translations, so I guess I'm partial to them. And the Vintage Classics Russian set does not have them as translators. And then my dad was talking about how he's going to be teaching a little class. He's teaching this class on Anna Karenina, and I was like, I want to reread that, but I don't have an edition. Oh, I was at my school bookstore because my mom wanted some school merch. And I was like, I'm gonna buy it, and my mom bought it for me. So I didn't buy this, but I got it into my possession. Haven't started it. I probably will soon, but like I've already read Anna Karenina years ago, and I was probably way too young to understand it. So I want to read it again real bad, but I don't feel the same sort of pressure. Anyway, so yes, Anna Karenina, I don't know, it's Anna Karenina. It's about a woman. I don't actually even know. It's about a woman named Anna Karenina. It's about some people. Kitty is one of them. Lenin, maybe? I don't know, but I'm gonna read it, and it's gonna be great. While we're in big fat tomes of books, I bought Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. Whoa. I read Jane Eyre for a class. Loved it again for the 3rd time. And I thought, I've read most of the other Bronte works. I haven't read Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I feel like I should, because it's like Anne's most famous, and I've read Charlotte and Emily's most famous works. So I don't know what we're playing at. But instead of reading Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I bought Shirley to read. So I will be reading Shirley at some point. Who knows when? I don't know what it's about. Probably about a young woman. So then I went to France, Paris, and like southern France, I know. And of course, while in France, in Paris, I went to Shakespeare & Co. Because I literally, like, how could I not go to Shakespeare & Co. while in Paris? I don't know, especially not realizing until I was there that was the bookstore that they go to in Heartstopper. And then I was like, well, of course. What other bookstore did I think it was that sold English books? I don't know. So anyway, I spent way too much money there. And the cats are fighting. Lysander was hiding inside of a blanket that is on my floor, and now they are fighting. But I spent way too much money at Shakespeare & Co. And I bought some collection things that I didn't need to buy, but do I ever need to buy a book? I could just get everything from the library. Do I look like someone who's gonna give up on buying collection books? So I bought all of the Vintage Classic editions of Virginia Woolf. They have 6 of them. These have been on my Amazon wish list, which I don't use. So if you go to my Amazon wish list, it happens to be just Virginia Woolf stuff. It's going through a phase, I guess. And I love Virginia Woolf, but these have been on that wish list forever because, again, as I said, you cannot buy vintage classics, like these fancy, cool, amazing editions in the States, except on the rare occasion, I guess, that they're like used and turned into a bookstore, a used bookstore. So I saw these and I was like, these have been on my wish list forever. I'm getting them. Honestly, I think this was not that it was a mistake because I love Virginia Woolf. Shh, darling, don't listen to me. But because why did I get these in France? I could have gotten them not having to fly home. But I managed to bring them home, so here we are. Why did I do it? Anyway, so this has To the Lighthouse, which I just read twice for a class. It has The Waves, which is one of my favorite Virginia Woolf books. I mean, I love them all so much. It has The Years, which I haven't read, so this is a one-of-a-kind copy, whereas like these two I already have copies of. This is why it's a little silly. I bought The Years and Flush, which I think must be about a dog because there's a dog on the cover. So The Years and Flush are the ones that like I don't have copies of. And then there's Mrs. Dalloway, of course, and A Room of One's Own, which also has Three Guineas in it. And because I already have a copy of A Room of One's Own, and Three Guineas is never sold without A Room of One's Own, I don't actually have a copy of Three Guineas. So now I have a copy of Three Guineas, although I believe this is my third copy of A Room of One's Own. I couldn't resist. They're just so pretty, and look how nice they look, just like on the shelf. I had to do it. Virginia Woolf is just one of my favorite authors. I love everything I read of hers, so I couldn't resist. And then also while I was there, I bought some Wendy Cope poems because Wendy Cope is a British author, so they don't sell her stuff here in the States, which I think is like, we better hop on a train, guys. We don't have trains here. That's a European thing too. Wendy Cope, Two Cures for Love, which is selected poems from 1979 to 2006. After reading this, I realized that the orange, like a lot of the poems that are in the orange are also in this, but this has just more poems. Really enjoyed this as well. Wendy Cope, I just think, like, she's just kind of fun, and the fact that her poems rhyme makes the sad poems not as sad, but sometimes they hit harder, and you think, I am impressed with people who write rhyming poems that don't sound phony. I don't think these sound like weird, and I'm impressed at her ability to do that because it's just hard. But then I read a poem by her that doesn't rhyme, and I'm like, whoa. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword, I guess. I guess she doesn't have a whole lot of poetry out, but I quite enjoy it. If I ever see another Wendy Cope collection here in the States, I'll buy it. But when's that gonna happen? And then I bought some Amour collection books, which, this was just silly. So I read The English Understand Wool on the plane over to France, and then I saw it in the bookshelf. So basically, these exist here in the States. This is really why I shouldn't have bought them. Not because I don't want to have these like fun little storybook editions, but because they exist here in the States and I didn't need to buy them in France, right? But anyway, I also just like don't need them. It was kind of silly. But basically, so it's New Directions, the independent publisher, which are getting big enough that I don't know what means, like what's an independent publisher when they're big, right? Like, I don't know how it works. Anyway, so they are like they're like designed like kids storybooks. They don't have pictures, which I think was a missed opportunity. They smell kind of rank. Like, they don't smell like new book. They smell like binding glue, maybe. Not nice. So I read The English Understand Wool on the way over on the plane just from the library, super short, right? And I liked it a lot, actually. And then I got to Shakespeare & Co. and I was like walking around the bookshelf and I was like, oh my gosh. And I saw two other ones. This is The Famous Magician, and this is The Road to the City. And I saw them, and I was like, well, I have to get them. Or I think I saw The Road to the City, and I said, oh, I just read another one in that, like, series. I have to get it. And then I picked it up, and then I saw this one, and I was like, oh, well, if I'm here buying them, I might as well. And then I saw this, and I was like, well. So these were actually, I think, the only three that Shakespeare & Company had. So I bought all three of them, and I read all three of them, and I enjoyed all of them, and I will keep them because they are collector's editions of things, basically. They're just short stories that were written, I think generally they're not written for this, but they are republished in this form to have like the spotlight on them or something. But they're just cool and like fun things to have on my shelf. And you know, if I was buying all of Virginia Woolf's work anyway, might as well. I also I got them only to stamp one book with the Shakespeare & Company because it's not like it's just like a stamp. I don't know, could have been cooler, but I did get a tote bag as well. That was exciting. All right, I took a brief break, but we're back. Hey guys, we're back. And I wanted to talk about the French books that I bought because I was in France and I bought some French books, and that's it. Then I'll be done. I went to a Fnac, which I guess is like the French version of a Chapters or Barnes & Noble. I don't really know. There weren't that many in Paris, so we didn't actually see any. We went to a lot of bookstores and they were all these small independent bookstores. Very cool. And I actually went to more English bookstores than I knew that there were. But I didn't see a Fnac, and I kind of wanted to because I figured they would have more of like type of book that I'm into. Oh well, doesn't matter. So I went into a Fnac before the train to southern France, which was a 2.5-hour train ride, basically. And I bought some French books because I brought a couple with me, but I was in France and I wanted to buy some, okay? And they're a lot cheaper in France than they happen to be in the US. I wonder why that is. So I get really embarrassed talking with a French accent, even though I am technically alone in my apartment with only my cats to bear witness. I'm a little worried about it. An accidental, I don't know how to say that. The Accidental Man, I guess, by Philippe Besson, who wrote Lie With Me, which I really liked. And then I was like, I want to get that, but they didn't have it at the bookstore. And also, I could get another book that I hadn't already read, even though I read it in a different language. So I bought this, and I started it while we were in France, then I got home and I haven't read it at all. So I'm like only a couple pages in. But I will be finishing this. It's about two people who were separated by a brutal death. Nope, who are separated, completely separated. Find themselves reunited, brutally reunited, the death of someone unknown. It's also set in Los Angeles, which is pretty wild. I couldn't tell you what it's about, really. So far, it's basically, he's just like, we moved to Los Angeles. Well, it's very different than New York. So that's fun. And then I also bought, at that bookstore, kind of my only French book goal for the trip. Heartstopper, but in French, of course. How could I not? And so then I read this on the train. And it's so fun. So they change all of the, like, sound effects to be French, and it's fun because, like, Charlie's Room, the music sign in Charlie's Room is now says musique, and I just think it's like really cute and fun. It was very fun to reread because it's actually been a while since I've reread the comics, maybe 6 months, right? That's a while. So it was fun to read, and then I also learned a lot of like French slang, which I just wasn't expecting to learn. So it was good. I enjoyed it. Of course, it's one of my favorite books of series things of all time, so it was great. And now I've read it in French too, so I have a German copy, which I haven't read, that my friend got me when she was in Germany once, and then I have all the English copies, and now I have a French copy. One day it'll be all of them. Not really, but like, it's cool that, it's just so cool. So I also bought a couple more books. I bought a Patrick Modiano book, Some Days in August, and I bought a book by Georges Perec that my sister told me I needed to buy, La Vie Mode d'Employé. Martha just told me I had to buy it, so I did, and I don't know anything about it. And then I bought Les Années by Annie Ernaux. She won the Nobel Prize for Literature recently, and this is one of her books. I guess not last year, but the year before. All three of these books, I don't really know what they're about. I picked them up because of the name recognition. But hey, I don't know enough French to like sit in the bookstore and decide in a quick moment which books to buy, because I have to like take my time, and they're all gonna sound fine because I don't know. You know, it's like my book choosing becomes different when they're books in French. So anyway, that's my haul. A lot of talking, a lot of saying nothing, really. I got quite a few books. Let's see, I got 5 French books. Looks like I got 23 books. Could be wrong. I don't know how to do math. And my cat's pulled a Werther's candy out of the nether regions of my house somewhere, so I think I'll have that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm hoping that it's an awful video, but that I get back into making videos, and then life will be much better and more fun because I will be talking about things that I love. Yep. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in my next one. Have a great day.